Hi, everybody. Welcome to the first Dutch Dutch live stream. You have Joe Spector. I'm the founder and CEO of Dutch Vet, and I'm here with Dr. Kate Elden.
Hi, everybody. Hi, I'm Dr. Kate Elden. I'm a licensed veterinarian and the chief medical officer at Dutch. We're excited to be doing this with you today.
So this is our first Dutch live cast, and it is meant to be conversational. We're going to talk about veterinary care. We're going to talk about telemedicine. We're going to answer questions that you have about your pet. We are doing this so that it's a chance for you to get to know who we are, and we're going to share some fun stories. We're going to talk about New World Screwworm, and we're going to have fun. So here we go. So, Dr. Kate, you've been doing veterinary care for quite some time. You've been doing telemedicine for quite some time. Tell us about yourself. Most people haven't heard about us at all. So this is a chance for our introductions.
All right. So I am a veterinarian based here in Southern California. I've been a vet for almost 20 years now.
Can you
And
believe that?
I can't believe that. Yes.
20 years. 20 years is that, there's kids who are 20 years old who are adults.
That's crazy. It's crazy. I think about it too, and if you had told me that I was gonna be a vet when I was a little kid, I would have said, "No way, Jose, I'm gonna be doing something else." Like, I wasn't one of those kids that was like, "Oh, I'm gonna be a veterinarian forever."
What did
But
you think you were going to be?
I had lots of different ideas. At one point, I wanted to be a backup dancer for a famous pop star. I had a
Yes,
I had a
that's
lot of
that's
different
where
ideas.
that's where my daughter is at right now.
I
But she
so good.
also wants to be a veterinarian, by the way.
Wow. Aw, there's still hope. I mean, she could change her mind like 10 times over. When I was in high school and all throughout college, I thought that I was gonna go be a human doctor and cure cancer. Like, I had my sights set on a MD, PhD program. And then even in vet school, and my friends will tell you, I was laser focused on being a horse vet. That's all I wanted to ever do was drive around the countryside, take care of horses. And I set out on that path. I started as a horse vet working in Colorado and then moved to kind of the LA area, was taking care of horses of the rich and famous there, just having so much fun. Um, and by the way, I don't think people realize that when you're doing horse medicine, it all starts with a telemedicine appointment, because somebody calls you from the farm and they might be an hour and a half away. And before you drive out there, you talk to them. They might even send you pictures, you're asking what's going on. So it's all about this like history taking and communication. I think that's where the telemedicine journey started for me, actually. Yeah.
So in this 20 years, what's a story that has stayed with you this whole time?
Uh, as a veterinarian, like
Yeah.
a patient that I've seen.
Yeah. What's a story that you can still recall today?
Oh, I've got so many of them. Okay, one of my favorite, early horse vet stories was when we was practicing in Colorado, and we had a pager to let us know when emergencies came through, and I remember.
Do you wanna let the kids know what a pager is?
Oh, yeah, so funny. So it's this, like, little box, right? About half the size of your phone, and it clipped on like one of these like clunky microphones, and it would just beep, like no warning, go beep, beep, beep. And you got this like little space of text. That's it. No pictures, no videos, just like a few lines of text. And I pull out this pager, and all it says was altercation with porcupine. And so I had an emergency call for a horse that had a bunch of porcupine needles stuck in his muzzle. It was just the cutest thing. And he was looking so sad. And I went in there one by one. And you can decompress porcupine quills. They actually have like a little suction mechanism. So if you cut them, then they decompress and then you pull them out. And he got a little sedation and some pain medications. But man, that the look on his sweet little face when I got out there and how like he felt so guilty. He's like, I'm never doing that again. You could just see it in his face. And he felt so
Is
much
that
better.
is that and I've heard that, and I've heard dogs get porcupine needles. Is that training you get as a veterinarian for how to deal with it, or do you just show up and just kind of get into it for how to fix it?
You know, a lot of it is just showing up and figuring it out as you go. Especially with horses because you're like, this was far away from a barn or any kind of hospital or medical setting. So it's what you've got in the back of your truck. Usually there's an owner there standing and together you're kind of figuring out how you're going to work through this. Um, yeah, sometimes you go back to your truck and you look up something in a book, right, for reference, and yeah, it's figuring things out as we go.
And so you went from horses to now doing companion animals, which is industry speak for cats and dogs. And tell us, like, what happened with going from horses to cats and dogs?
Yeah, because I never thought I was gonna work with cats and dogs. So I was, working as a horse vet in the LA area, and I was doing a pre-purchase exam, kind of like how if you were gonna go buy a used car, you might have your mechanic take a look at your car and check it out. So I was looking at this horse
A
because one of my
pre-purchase exam. So a
pre-purchase.
pre-purchase exam. What's a cost for a horse, by the way? This is
Oh, it
something I don't
can
know.
yeah, it can vary. It can vary. Sometimes actually I bought a horse for $1. We had to put like something down on paper in order to transfer the papers over. So you have to pay something if you want it to be official. Some horses are worth a lot of money if they're bred to compete or race or train, or if they're yeah, if their personality, like say you're a parent and you want to get a horse for your kid and you want a horse that's very calm and well trained, that might be
Mhm.
worth it to someone.
My daughter
But
has been begging me to have a horse. And what's a typical price for a horse? Like, what's a range?
well, so it's never the cost of the horse up front that's the expense. It's the
Um,
monthly, yeah, it's the monthly, paying for the food and the barn. And I mean, back when I had a horse in my backyard, hay was between 15 and $20 a bale. And so it's sure it's a lot higher now, but you think about that and it's that expense, like getting them shod, having horseshoes put on. It's like kind of those monthly expenses that are more than you think.
okay,
Yes.
here's a question. Are pre-purchase, pre-adoption checks standard for all animals or just livestock horses? Can you do a pre-purchase for a dog or a cat?
I have never had anybody ask me that question. So
What
I
would
don't
you
think,
do? What would you do
yes.
for a pre-purchase check for a dog?
Well, okay, so this isn't that dissimilar from if you were going to be buying a dog from a breeder, right? So for a pre-purchase exam for a horse, a lot of the time we're taking X-rays to make sure that they don't have any small fractures or abnormalities in their legs where you won't be able to ride them. If you're getting a dog that with a breed that's known for like hip dysplasia. Say you were going to be getting a German Shepherd dog and you were going to be using that dog as a working dog. You're very well want to know that they're anatomically set up for success. And so take some x-rays. You might do some genetic testing on them. So it's a different type of kind of medical checkup. Um, yeah.
By the way, there is no way that you would have thought before we did our first Dutch live cast that you thought we were going to talk about a
No.
pre-purchase check on
Oh,
dogs. There's no
and then
way.
I think you teed this up though, because getting to the point was I got kicked during that pre-purchase exam that I did with this horse.
Okay, so this is a life-defining moment.
Was a life-defining moment. I thought I was going to be working on horses forever. I was the president of the Equine Medicine Club. My best friend and I were president of the Equine Medicine Club in school. And then, yeah, I got kicked. And it made me stop and kind of think and reflect about what I was doing and if it was sustainable. And I started doing some rehab, canine rehab, which I still absolutely love, working with dogs that either are senior and are trying to get their mobility back or after surgery. Um, and we do a lot of that stuff in horses. So it was very natural to start doing it in dogs. I'm doing a lameness exam in a dog, and then I just kind of never looked back from there. I loved the relationships that I was making with people with dogs, and cats. We did do some acupuncture on cats, and so yeah. Then
By the way, I think whenever we've my family, my father-in-law has adopted so many shelter animals, and I've gone with him. They sort of do a pre-purchase check because you kind of get a dossier on that pet in order for you to kind of know what you're getting into when you're adopting. So there's that's kind of the pre-purchase check. I think for shelters that they do a lot of the time.
yeah, and it's probably more, it's thought of as a health check, right? You just want to make sure that they're healthy before you're adopting them. Uh, a little bit different. The relationships is sometimes different that people are having with horses because you're riding them,
Mhm.
than a, a dog or a
Good
cat.
dog, yeah. Although
Yeah.
I've my first black cat, I was riding that black cat a lot when I was 5.
Oh,
That cat, I had this black cat, it was my first pet, and it's one of those things I feel so bad about, but I would pull her by the tail in a playful way. I mean, I was 5 years old.
yeah.
And that cat was kinda like the only one who allowed to be played with, and otherwise, it was this black cat, and she did not, like cats do, like, she wanted her own space and to do her own thing, and, but her and I had a bond because I think, as a child, like she was, and then we got her. Um,
And that was your
oh,
very first.
yeah.
Was that here in California?
No, that was back in the old country where I was born in Uzbekistan.
Tell us a little bit about your journey.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Well, so I'm originally from I think this often kind of shocks people, especially if I start speaking Russian out of the blue. But I'm originally from the Soviet Union. I was born in Tashkent, Uzbekistan. Tashkent, the claim to fame is that it's part of this 2,000-year-old Silk Road, and which went from Asia to Europe, and it's a really ancient city. It's quite beautiful, and my family initially immigrated to Uzbekistan from Ukraine around kind of World War II time, and I grew up in communism, and up until 10 when my family left, I thought that was going to be my life. I thought it was going to be an exemplary communist, uh, member of society. And at 10 years old, we packed up and with a suitcase left the country and just like literally said goodbye to everything. And I think 10 is such an interesting time because it's also when you're transitioning into adulthood. And so that's kind of like your horse kicking. That was my horse kicking. It was a very defining moment in my life of and also what I saw with my parents of just completely starting from scratch. And ultimately we lived in a refugee camp, which is a whole crazy story for another time because we can talk about that for a long time. But ultimately came to the United States, came to America. We literally had no money like for a long time. And I think that's partially why healthcare and why when I started Dutch and affordability and access to care, why those things really matter to me. In fact, I think, we're going to read some comments. And I hope, by the way, people who are watching this live are asking us questions, and we're going to be answering questions as they come through. But I think the issue of healthcare and affordability is so personal to me. It's so important because I've lived a life where I remember I still do, by the way, which is, I think my kids don't fully understand this, but when I see like a penny on the floor, I'm like, wow, or like that's 10 cents. That's a quarter. Like that's some good money right there.
I don't think that stuff leaves us. I have things like that too. My grandparents were immigrants from Poland on my mom's side, and they grew up very poor. And I can still see that, it's that same it's a mindset and it's a foundation. I don't think it ever leaves you. And you were old enough, you were 10, you were old enough when you left to remember. I don't think you're never gonna lose that.
No. And it has now, as an entrepreneur, it has taught me so many things around perseverance and persistent. It's also made me come here as an outsider. And I've been an outsider starting this business, but it has made me look at things from a new perspective and be comfortable being uncomfortable. The other thing of, as an immigrant, having to learn a new language, I think it's made me a good listener because I've had to pick up the dialect. I've had to pick up the nuance. I've had to pick up the cultural differences. And so I think I'm extra attuned to being curious and understanding why things are different and how things are made. But as a result, I'm also someone who doesn't accept things for what they are just because that's the way it's been done. And all that has certainly translated into this journey to launching Dutch and culminating into the most important thing I've ever done professionally in my life, because it has been a dream to do something that gives back and changes things. And, it took me, like your journey of 20 years, it has taken me 20 years to get all the pieces of knowledge and awareness and leadership in order to actually launch this and figure out, by the way, like you mentioned, you wanted to be a horse vet when you started. For me, I actually thought I was going to do affordable housing because that's kind of what I saw as kind of giving back. And again, given my background and being an entrepreneur and kind of my life journey, because I ended up going to business school. I ended up going to Wharton. I studied real estate, and I thought that was going to be my future. And I realized the problem with real estate is it's often run by old, wealthy families, and it doesn't really accept change very quickly. And it's hard to make change very quickly. And so I think with that, plus again, getting my own corgi and seeing the problems and being an entrepreneur with hymns, I think all those things kind of led me here where I could be much more effective in change, but still do something that's mission positive.
I could see you going through the real estate industry and then just really feeling like you didn't fit in.
No, it was
Yeah.
it was generational wealth, and I couldn't stand between that and just like how long everything takes, because the bureaucracy of getting anything built, especially here in California, it was not for me. I love the iterative approach that you can have with a startup. I mean, you've seen it yourself starting Dutch, whether it's our electronic medical record or, when we hear from a customer, like we'll action it pretty quickly.
I
Okay.
love that about being at Dutch. It's amazing because if there's, the ability at which we can change and innovate and test things to see if they work is so fast, and it's so fun. I love it. I've heard you tell your story a couple times now, Joe, and I love hearing the like common threads because even with real estate, the goal was always to help people who needed it. And then now at scale, as you were talking, I was like, I don't think I've ever told you this, but I want to. We're going to do it here now with everybody listening.
Okay, I'm dying.
Because I've been doing telemedicine for a long time. I joke that even as a horse vet, I was doing telemedicine, but really in the pandemic, I started doing telemedicine the way people know and think about it. But it was, it's like one case at a time, or several cases a day. And I saw the power and the ability to help people who couldn't get help otherwise. If their pets were too anxious to get in the clinic, or they adopted a pet and it was aggressive and they felt shameful bringing it in, or just couldn't afford. But it was like an incremental one case at a time. And I always knew that I wanted to do something bigger in vet med and have a bigger impact than just myself. And when I saw what the team was building with Dutch, I was like, that's it. This is it. Felt like another career defining moment. I'm like, this is an opportunity to really help people at scale, right? And we help so many people every single day and I see it on appointments, they're so delighted to get to talk to a vet, and otherwise so many people wouldn't be able to. So thank you for that.
For those, so we have a question for, because most, again, people probably haven't heard about Dutch, and
Yeah.
most people aren't familiar with Dutch, or even frankly, quote, what telemedicine is. What is Dutch? And you kind of, especially because you've recently joined Dutch, what is it to you?
What
Yeah.
is Dutch? So Dutch is a online vet and an online pharmacy all rolled into one. I think that's the best way to explain it. So I used to work in a brick and mortar practice. People would bring their pets in to come see me. They would have a medical question or a wellness visit that they wanted to accomplish. And basically, we take that exact same thing and we bring it online so people can have the same vet interaction. Um, with a video chat, kind of just like we're doing right now,
Yeah,
but from
this is a telemedicine call.
this is it. We're doing telehealth because we're not going to be
Telehealth.
prescribed directly
That's right.
from
Not
here.
prescribed.
You need a
Yes.
prescription, you can hop online and talk to a vet through Dutch, and then we will establish that relationship where we will get all of your medical history. And that, Liz, we have an electronic medical record system, just like you alluded to before, Joe. So we keep track of a pet's history. Um, we keep track of photos and videos that people send us, and it's a membership. So to be a Dutch member costs less than one office visit for most veterinary clinics, and that gets you a year's membership, and you can have up to five pets on your membership, and that gives you access to a vet anytime, anywhere. And there's no catch to that. You can make a video visit or do a chat, just kind of like you're texting with your veterinarian, and ask them questions anytime. We've got a ton of vets on our platform in all 50 states, and so any vet can jump in and help out and answer your question. And then if there's a need for a medicine or a prescription or a therapeutic diet, we can ship that straight to you, just kind of like an Amazon experience. Yeah, and I mean, as a vet, I love it.
And we have a coupon code, Sun50, if you go to Dutch.com and you want to try us out for, $50, no brainer. We have a question. Do you see a future where pet parents can administer vaccines at home? And I think this comes through because, for me at least, people are administering GLP-1s at home. And in this question, this is often a 5-minute process in the office, but it can be hours of time and money.
I say this a lot where I see a future where every pet has a Dutch veterinarian or an online veterinarian and an in-person vet, and we deliver the care that they can get at home. And then for like surgeries, anesthesia, things like that, they need to go in person. I do see a world where people are administering vaccines at home. People give EpiPens at home. You know, people with diabetes give themselves injections at home. And pets, when dogs and cats need their insulin, they're giving those injections twice a day. But we can develop tools that are that make it relatively easy to be able to administer those things. Some vaccines are given in the nose or even in the mouth. So I do think that's a possibility for certain vaccines that are related to public health, things like rabies, where we require supervision and a license. And it's really the vaccine handling that is important to figure out, because some vaccines need to be held at a certain temperature. So a vaccine like rabies might need to be in the hands of a veterinarian for a while. But the other vaccines, especially vaccines related to lifestyle that not necessarily every pet needs, yeah, I can see that as part of the future. What I see is more of a near-term future is being able to do more just kind of testing at home, like being able to do a heartworm test at home, or do like a liver and kidney check at home. And then those results you could get, and then also hop on to a visit with a veterinarian and kind of discuss and analyze, okay, now I've got this result, what's the next step? And then go from there.
And I think one thing that comes up is a lot of people don't know that we do a lot of diagnostics already on Dutch, because
Yes.
sometimes the feeling is, oh, how do you know for an UTI or an ear infection? How do you know from just a video call? Or like you had a fun question about intestinal parasites.
What a veterinarian that didn't know about Dutch or what we are said, well, how can you diagnose an intestinal parasite through telemedicine? And I was like, oh, well, just like you do in the clinic, that we can ship clients a fecal cup that they send off to the lab, and we get results in the same amount of time as we would if we had collected it in a veterinary clinic. And by the
And
way,
what are
tapeworm is one of the intestinal parasites that you can diagnose just visually. So anything that you could do visually, you could do through telemedicine.
and what are so the diagnostics we have? Do you want to list them all?
Yeah, so we could do urine testing, just like you mentioned. We can do urine testing where we look for infections. We can even take that urine and culture it to do targeted antibiotic therapy so that we know exactly what antibiotic to give to your pet for a certain type of infection. We can do fecal testing for Giardia that causes diarrhea in pets, and the kind of worms that gross everybody out. We can do ear swab testing where we have the owner, they get shipped a kit, and there's step by step what to do. The pet parent will take like a Q-tip type swab and use that in the ear, and you do one in each ear, and we look for an infection just the same way that you would in a veterinary clinic. And then we get results back and can do the same kind of targeted antibiotic therapy. Those are the main tests that we're running right now. There are some other tests that we are talking about adding to our platform to rule out things like Cushing's and stuff like that. Oftentimes in the veterinary clinic, you'll send a pet parent home with a cup and have them do collection too. So it's not that dissimilar
Right,
from
right.
what we practice.
And tell us more about, again, for those who are just joining in, we're talking
Mhm.
about Dutch. We're talking with the chief medical officer at Dutch. If you want to try us out, we have a coupon code SUN50. We're taking questions. If you have any questions on our live streams, send it to us and we'll talk about it. But speaking of diagnostics, speaking of preventatives, we cannot not talk about New World screwworm. And many people, maybe if you're not living in Texas or New Mexico, you may not have heard about it. But this is a pretty big development, and we should definitely address what it is and what we should and shouldn't do when it comes to New World screwworm, which is going to be a topic you will be hearing about.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up, Joe. It's really I think this is an important one because it's important for pets and people, especially if you're in an area where where New World screwworm is. But it's also important for the U.S. economy because this is affecting food supply. So, okay, so what is screwworm? I'm going to try to describe
Explain
it
me
without
this.
everybody out. It's actually a fly. So New World screwworm is a fly, and this fly has a life stage that has a larva, and that's where the worm comes from. And these flies, they are targeted to any kind of open wound or break in the skin, or even like in the part of the eye where there's exposed flesh.
And so
And
is it like a regular house fly? How do I know if it's a New World or is it
can't
a
really
house fly?
tell. I mean,
You can't
if
tell.
you know your flies, you could probably tell it has like really bright orange eyes, but it's virtually indistinguishable from the average fly. Um, yeah, so it looks mostly like any other fly. Um, and instead of like normal fly larvae, maggots that eat dead and dying tissue, New World screwworm can only eat healthy tissue. So a fly lays its eggs, it lays hundreds of eggs at a time. Those eggs become larvae, and the larvae are obligate parasites, meaning they first thing they want to do is dive down and eat healthy tissue. And so if you have a pet that's exposed to this fly, um, if they have a wound, within days, this wound that was something small could become really big because of New World screwworm because they're diving down and eating healthy tissue.
And
Um,
how did this, like, what was the first case? How did this even come to the United States? Where is it?
yeah, so we've had New World screwworm here before. We eradicated it in the 1960s, and now it's back. We figured out how to get rid of it. We released a bunch of sterile flies because these flies only mate once. So we released like millions of flies into the population in order to get rid of it. And we pushed New World screwworm back down through to Central America. And it had been kind of contained to the Panama region for a long time, but now it's crept back up. Um, and so it's mainly in cattle and livestock population, but definitely does affect dogs and cats. And I mean, people could get infected with screwworm here. I don't want to, not be alarmist about it because if someone were to get it, it's very treatable as long as you catch it early. So if a pet does get New World screwworm, the most important thing that you can do is we'll start them on a parasite preventative. That's what a veterinarian would do. One of the new ones, like a Credelio Quattro, Simparica Trio, NexGard Plus, and then you want to clean and take care of the wound that you see. And the longer that it's been around, the larger the wound is. If the wound gets secondarily infected, that's the biggest problem.
Okay, we have a question back to the urine testing. A
Mhm.
member says, I've been a member. How do you do urine testing? It wasn't offered during my visit.
So the
So what do you
urine test.
do if you want to get it, but it wasn't offered?
Yeah, if you wanna do urine testing, and by the way, like, we recommend annual, annual diagnostics for pets. And so a urine test is a great thing to do as a wellness item each year for your pet. Sometimes we want to do a urine together with a blood test, but you can get a lot of information from a urine test alone. You can get some information about kidney function. If you're already a Dutch member, what I would say is just go on and send a message saying, "Hey, I want to get a urine test done," and we'll ship you. I mean, you could get express shipping and have it to you in a day. And then I think getting a urine sample is really a two-person job, but some people can do it by themselves. And you want to take your dog for a walk. I'm assuming this is for a dog, but we can do urine tests in cats too. But I recommend kind of first thing in the morning when you know they're going to be going to the bathroom. That way you're not following or chasing them around as much. And you can collect initially in just like a clean Tupperware container. Um, and then you send that sample back to the lab in the cup that was given, and we get results back right away.
So the easiest thing you can do is go into your account, send a message, and we'll get it taken care of. The other option is we have a pharmacy page and you can just order a urine kit that way as well. So if you just go to Dutch.com and search for urine test, that's another way to order. But honestly, the simplest thing is log into your account on Dutch and send a message and we'll get it taken care of.
That's right. And then a vet can review the results with you once those results are in.
Okay, we have got to talk about July 4th. It is only weeks away, and a member is asking if my cat gets scared from the fireworks and runs under the couch, should I try to coax them out with treats or let them stay there?
Oh, so sweet. I love this question. I love that we're talking about 4th of July now before like a couple days before. So if your kitty is hiding under the couch, I think, it depends on how hard it is to get them out, right? If it's going to be a trauma and you're going to have
Mm.
to move the couch to get them out, I would say let them stay calm in their safe space under there. I recommend people actually set up like a calm and like quiet, safe space ahead of time that their pet can go to. And even if you can kind of close the doors so they're contained in that general area, but maybe under the couch is their calm and safe space. I'd put on some white noise and probably just let them hang out there and make sure food and water was nearby. Their resources are what they worry about the most. So food, water, litter box. But that noise can be really alarming for them. So a little bit of white noise, or if you have feel away, which is a pheromone spray for cats that can be really calming. That's a good
Which you
idea.
can get on Dutch.
You can get that on Dutch, absolutely. Yeah.
What do you think the cat or the dog is thinking when that's happening?
I mean, they're probably thinking that it's the end of the world, right? Like it's very scary for them. They don't know what is going on. The loud sounds and the vibrations, they're probably thinking we're under attack, right? And so they're just trying to hide and stay safe. I've had pets that I've seen on the platform that have just generalized or separation anxiety that have like jumped out of second story windows before because they've been so scared from noise. So it's, the pets don't know what's going on. In a similar way, when you're going to take them to the vet, they don't know what's going on and they get really scared.
Mhm.
So yeah.
Okay, another question. My cats love the spot under my kid's dresser. That's their safe space. By the way, I have another on this. My dog Eddie, on this point, when pets love a spot, he loves to go into our bedroom and pee on my side of the bed. Never on my wife's side, never, like, literally anywhere. He always goes outside, but I think my theory is that, once in a while, he wants to show who's the boss,
Mm.
and he will but anyway, but is that I don't know what you think about, like, this back cats have a spot? Like, what's the deal with that?
Yeah, well, I mean, so, okay, first of all, talk about the cat, and then we can talk about Eddie. But I think it's really, it's really healthy and normal and natural for pets to have a safe space that they go to. That's kind of, like it smells like them. It's
Yeah, I was gonna
comforting.
say, is it smells or is it some other reason? Is it like sunny? Is it some other, like, what is the thing that's driving in like a cat to a spot?
It's probably a combination of all of it. I cats love to sit in a sunny spot in the windowsill, right?
Mhm.
So that they can watch and see things around them, and a lot of that's gonna be up to the personality of the cat.
Mhm.
Maybe they want a spot where they can retreat and where it's calm, where people aren't gonna bother them. Maybe this cat wants the kid energy and feels, feels the love from the kids. But yeah, most of the time, pets do have kind of their safe space. My Labrador Golden Retriever, Cody, he used to try to find the like cool tile spot on the floor in the kitchen, kind of, where he could see any food that was coming his way. But it was a cool spot on the floor as opposed to a warm spot. And it's just kind of, you know, where they like to hang out. Um, Oh, I see this question about cats. What about cats and overheating? This one's a good one as we get into the warm months. Should we offer ice water or fans? This is a great question because in dogs, dogs can also overheat, so can cats. But in dogs, I think it's a little bit more obvious. Like dogs will pant, and they do that early on. That's part of how they cool. That's also why dogs that have the squished noses, like the super adorable dogs with the squished noses, they are even more prone to overheating because they don't pant as well, and that's part of how they cool. For cats, the signs are a little bit less obvious, and so if a cat is panting, they're already very, very hot. And so, that's something to pay serious attention to. Cats don't pant until they're pretty distressed. So any sign that they're acting abnormal, if they're hiding or not eating as much, if they're panting, absolutely try to find a cool spot for them. You can put a little bit of water on their ears, on the back of their ears, on their paws. They cool a little bit through their paws, offering them cool water. I wouldn't force them to drink. You don't want to squirt a bunch of water in their mouth or anything like that. But just offering them some cool water and fans is a good idea. It's a balance with cats because you don't want to stress them out at the same time, but find a cool spot. And if they're cooling down and seeming more comfortable and less anxious and they're not panting, then it's okay to monitor. If at any point a cat looks like they were hot and then they go to being lethargic or vomiting, having diarrhea, that's an emergency and they need to go into the clinic. But it's a good thing to watch for. You always want to have a cool spot for cats where they can retreat because they don't cool off very quickly on their own.
So we have a few minutes left. We're talking to the Dutch Chief Medical Officer, answering your questions. We love questions on any of the live streams. We have time for a couple more. This one, I love this question. Can cats be bipolar? One of our cats gets terrified of everything for a few days and then goes back to being loving and wanting scratches. Is that bipolar or is that just being cat?
Not well, I mean, and this is such a great question because Joe, you're just like any other. I forget that you're, just like any other pet parent. I'm like, well, and same thing I say, like with dogs, like age is not a disease, slowing down is not, there's something to that. Like a cat showing this kind of sign of having swings in their behavior. I wouldn't write it off to just, like that's just being a cat. No, they probably have some anxiety, right? And we've identified all of these kinds of psychological disorders or conditions in people. Is it that animals don't have them? I don't think so. I just think that we don't necessarily have a name to put to them. Animals can definitely experience trauma. We're all born with a different set of tools, and same with our pets, and their coping abilities are all different. They're all individuals. So for those kinds of cats that might have some serious mood swings, I think about, does it does it affect their daily life? Like, are they still able to, have most of their days are good days? Are they happy? Do they seem emotionally happy and are eating, drinking well? Or does this seem like this is affecting their daily life, their sleep, their eating, their drinking? If it does, or if it's affecting their emotional connection with the people that love them, then I'd say, okay, this is a conversation to have with your veterinarian. Maybe they need to be on a medication, something like fluoxetine or Prozac, because that can really level out kind of a baseline anxiety. And then they might be a little bit less reactive. And that's actually pretty common. To have cats that have some anxiety, to get them on a medication like that.
And talk to Dutch. Go to Dutch.com for that. Okay, last question, and we'll be back again next week. But here's the last question to leave you all with from a customer. I have one blind dog. How do I be patient with him?
Oh, this is so sweet. I love, like, it's such a thoughtful question. It's like you really care. So, okay, I love this question. So, I guess like I'd want to know a little bit more about why the dog was blind and if they're a senior as well. But the things that I think about right there are to remember, um, your dog isn't trying to be a pain, right? They they they've lost one of their abilities to sense the world around them. So they're going to need more time to work through their environment, right? Dogs are great at seeing the world with their nose. Smelling things is really helpful for them. Um, and your voice is actually really helpful for them because they can hear still really well. But as far as how do you remember to be patient? I would think about it from the perspective of, this dog has no idea how you might have lots of things on your to-do list. They're only thinking about, they just want to be able to spend some time with you. They want to be able to eat and go for a walk. They want to go for a sniff walk and smell the world around them. And so, yeah, I would say don't forget to slow down, spend those couple of minutes. And it's totally normal to get frustrated because you can see the world around you and all the things that you've got going on, but they really can't. Yeah.
All right, so we're gonna end this. Use our code SUN50. Go to Dutch.com. We'd love to have you try us out. If you go to Dutch.com, try SUN50. That's the best way to give Dutch.com a try. This has been awesome. This is our inaugural live cast. We did
Yeah,
it.
we
We'll be
did it.
back again next week, Thursday, June 25th, 8:15 a.m., 11:15 a.m. Eastern, 8:15 a.m. Pacific. This is awesome. Dr. Kate, I love this. And we'll be back again next week. And go to Dutch.com to check us out. Use code SUN50. Bye.
Seeing everyone next week.